Hare Krishna and welcome to the Bhagavad-gita lecture. We continue with chapter number 6, which is called Dhyana Yoga. And before the summer break, we were talking from text number 24. And today we continue with text number 25. So I will just say the auspicious mantras. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I can just remind you what we were talking last, what the verse 24 was. I will just read it and then we go to text number 25. So Lord Krishna was saying that one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. So then text number 25, which we will read and study today, is Krishna is saying in Sanskrit, Shanai Shanai Uparamed Buddhya Driti Grihitaya Atma Sangstang Manakritva Nakinchid Api Chintayet. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Purport. By proper conviction of and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. So I will continue with the other verses because they are just very short in the purport. Text number 26. Yato yato nishalati manas shanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitad atmanyeva vasham nayet. Translation. From wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Purport. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady, but the self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. One who controls the mind, and therefore the senses as well, is called Goswami or Swami, and one who is controlled by the mind is called Godas, or the servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha, or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. So I will go to we have a study guide as well. So I'm just going to read how the study guide is explaining verse 24, 25, and 26, which I was just reading now. So the study guide is saying, verses 24 to 26 explain how to achieve the level of Samadhi. And the level of Samadhi described in verses 20 to 23. So can someone remember what Samadhi means? Anyone here who remembers, who can explain what Samadhi means? Because this is important, how can I say, concept in order to understand how to advance in Krishna consciousness.
Isn't it when the mind is still?
Yes. Yes, when the mind is still. And Oskari?
If I may try, in one word, absorption.
Absorption, very good. Yes, yes, both of them. All right. And Ashwini, Kalyani, welcome, by the way, Kalyani.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I was late.
Oh, no problem. Just nice that you are here. Yeah. Yeah, so Samadhi can also, like Oskari said, and Anders said that it's a trance. When you enter into trance and you are just focused on the Supreme Lord, that is called Samadhi. And then there is, the Vedas are also like counting, for how many seconds you have been able to focus your mind. Then there is one word for that, and so on. But for Samadhi, I can't remember now how long it is, but at least you must have been able to focus on, like, without deviation on the Supreme Lord for a certain amount of time. I can't remember how much it was, but so that is also like technical, you could say, Samadhi, but it is to be absorbed in Krishna without deviating. Like Prabhupada, he was saying, actually, he said, I can't remember 1 second in my whole life where I have not been thinking of Krishna. So it means that those who are actually on the transcendental platform, they are actually always in connection with the Supreme Lord. But we can also say that we who are not 100% in Krishna consciousness, we are actually in Samadhi, but it's just, we are just absorbed in, maybe not this audience, but those who don't practice any spiritual life, one can say they are in Samadhi, that they are in absorbed in how to gratify the senses, how to find material enjoyment. So that is the contrary of Samadhi. So then the verses 24 to 26 explain how to achieve the level of Samadhi, and that was described in verses 20 to 23. So Krishna is saying that one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Thus, in order to attain Samadhi, one should practice yoga with determination and faith and not deviate. And then such determination results from strong faith in the process of bhakti yoga. Faith has another word in Sanskrit, is shraddha, is defined in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya as follows. Firm conviction to execute the order of the Lord is known as faith. If one has faith, he is firmly convinced that simply by rendering devotional service to the Lord, to Lord Krishna, all other activities are automatically performed. including ritualistic duties, sacrifices, yoga, and the speculative pursuit of knowledge. If one is convinced that devotional service to the Lord includes everything, no other activity is required. So that is called faith. Because in the Vedas, you have karma kanda, jnana kanda, you have the bhakti, shastri. So you have like different paths, but when you have faith in Krishna, it means that you understand that just by serving Krishna, then everybody will automatically be pleased. The forefathers, the demigods, and so on. So you just focus on your service to the Supreme Lord because he's the root. You water the root of a tree, and then all the branches, all the leaves, everything will be taken care of. So that is called faith, Shraddha. And then another important thing, which is that the yogi, he has to be convinced that what is real happiness. He has to be convinced. Is it, is material happiness going to satisfy me, or is transcendental happiness going to satisfy me? So that conviction has to be there, because otherwise we will always be between material and spiritual, material, spiritual, material, spiritual. So the more faith we have that actually if I chant Hare Krishna properly and I connect with Krishna, then I will feel this satisfaction or the happiness which I am looking for. So it requires a certain samadhi, you could say. When you chant, you should chant with very focused, very concentrated, and in a prayerful mood. And then actually Krishna very, very mercifully, he will actually make you feel his presence in the holy name. So when we chant our rounds, it's very important that we chant them properly, so we can find some place where we can, really hear the holy name and connect with Krishna. And we will feel love for him. We will feel that he's there in the holy name. And that is actually, in one sense, maybe not complete samadhi, but some kind of glimpse of what spiritual happiness actually can be in connection with Krishna. So this is important, that the yogi is convinced that transcendental happiness is higher than the material sensual experience, because material sensual experience is only through the senses. It's not really, it doesn't make that connection with the heart. It's, on the superficial level. So it gives certain impulse, but it's just like illusory type of happiness. So it's important to get that experience, because then one will know what is Krishna speaking about here in the Bhagavad-gita, what kind of happiness he's speaking. So we can get that experience like if we gather with devotees in the kirtan, or if we chant very good rounds, if we do some service for devotees, for Krishna. So then we can get that experience. So otherwise, we can't really give up the material desires. And remember, Krishna said, material desires, they are born from mental speculation. And because we speculate that if I do this, I will be happy. But it's just speculation. What is it based on, really? Have we seen any happy people? Is it like when we go out on the street, then everyone are like, ah? No, we see morose people. They look down and like everyone on their phone or something like that. So it's not really that when we go out on the street, that we see really super happy people. So that's why to chase material desires is actually just mental speculation, because we don't really have the knowledge how to become happy. But Prabhupada gave us the process. Krishna is giving us the process. Lord Chaitanya is giving us the process, how to feel the satisfaction in the heart. So it has a lot to do with controlling the mind. If you control the mind, so how do you control the mind? You have to control with intelligence. And the intelligence will be sharp when we study Bhagavad-gita, actually. So then we will know what is what. We have to understand the categories. We have to understand the details, the principles in spiritual life. And then one can bring the mind under the control. It's a constant struggle. One should not give up. I think it's important that one understand what is the goal and how one can gradually reach that spiritual goal. One should not give up. So yeah, Rupa Goswami is saying one should do this with, hoping against hope. That's how one should do it. So, but it's up to Krishna. The day when he wants to reveal himself, he will reveal himself. But then we also have to be like sensitive to that. Now Krishna is actually revealing himself. So we have to be sensitive to the different ways how he actually comes in our life, how he actually is helping us in our life. Yeah, so if I can open up for discussion now, or questions or comments or whatever.
I would like to ask a question about for example, when I'm chanting, I'm like, I have the mantra also written before me, so I try to like have something my eyes can focus on. But I still feel like I have a very hard time keeping my mind focused on like that one thing. Like it easily wanders everywhere else. If there are other techniques or practical ways that can help to focus.
Yes. For how long do you chant? Like, are you chanting like half an hour, or for how long do you use?
Not even like so far I often give up after like 1 or 2 rounds, because I just get like, I feel like after that point I've completely lost focus. Like that's how far I get.
Mhm.
And then I'm also like frustrated. So I'm just like, okay, this is yeah. But
Yeah.
I've tried chanting like for like 1.5 hours once, but then when I feel like I am right now, I'm just a parrot, and like I'm not really focused anymore, but my mind is like just going completely astray, and I'm really only repeating the words.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd rather try to like do less rounds, but like be really focused with it than just keep on going, but not being there anymore and kind of dissociating.
Mm. Yeah. Well, usually, like for us who chant 16 rounds, then it's very rare. I mean, only like after we have been in India, in Vrindavan, and in complete ecstasy. So then when we start chanting our rounds, so then we feel ecstasy at the first mantra. But usually that doesn't happen. It requires a little bit of, how can you say, you have to dig a hole, crack the, how can I say, there's always like a layer on top of us, and then we have to like take away that layer, and that takes maybe 4 rounds, and then after the fourth round we can start to connect with Krishna. So it's the first 4 rounds, I would say, are just dusting off all the material impressions. Yeah. So then after the fifth, the sixth, eighth, so then it starts flowing. So yeah.
So you would say to like just keep going even if I feel like I can't focus properly
Yes.
anymore?
Yes,
Okay.
because I don't know if you heard about the book by Satchidananda Swami. He's actually from Germany. He was born there, but then he took initiation from Prabhupada. So Satchidananda Swami, he wrote a book. It's called The Nectarian Ocean of the Holy Name. So there he explains there are 3 types of chanting. You have the nama aparad, so where you are committing offenses to the holy name, and then you have namabhas, where you don't commit offenses, and then you have shuddhanam, where Krishna is showing himself in the holy name. So that's the most advanced. That's like the samadhi level. But when you try to focus, as long as you're trying to focus, even if you can't focus, so then that is considered actually to be on namabhas. So namabhas chanting is at least granting liberation. So as long as we try to focus, it's like, even if the mind went wild to so many places, but then you notice, oh, okay, bring it back. So that verse which we read now, this 26th, where Krishna is saying that wherever the mind wanders, just bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. So it's it will get stronger and stronger. So, but it takes some effort, because we have been in the material world, millions of lifetimes, and now we're trying to focus on Krishna and be a little bit not focused on ourselves. So that in itself is actually a sacrifice, to not be self-centered and try to be centered on Krishna. That's in itself a sacrifice, actually. That's why japa is actually called a sacrifice. Japa means when you're chanting, it's considered to be a sacrifice, because we are trying to please the Lord. And then, but I think I would recommend you to pray to Prabhupada, and also say the Panchatattva mantra before you start chanting. So then you can, that's very important. Do you have the Panchatattva mantras?
I think I've quite a while ago, I watched a video on like japa and chanting, and I think there it was like also in the beginning, so I can
yes, the Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adhigora Bhaktavrinda. So for each round you chant that before you start each round, because they also take away the offenses. So then they make it more easy to reach to Krishna, to Radha Krishna, because Radha Krishna is actually very high level in the spiritual world. So yeah, you have to find also your different techniques. Different people, like if they are too restless, they walk around, and then for them it's more easy to walk. And then for other people, they can't walk because they will totally not focus. So then they sit down but just have like a straight line. And some people like to do some pranayamas before they start chanting to calm down the mind. And others like to read something about Krishna and become inspired by that. And then they connect like that. Whatever you do is like, whatever works for you, you should do that. So you have to experiment a little bit, like.
That's very helpful, because I think I might try walking, because I usually can focus best when I move my body. So
yes, yes, some people do that. Yes, Bhaktauskari.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Well,
Krishna.
a couple of points that came to mind. As Srila Prabhupada, he said that our chanting should be like a baby's cry after the mother. And well, needless to say, that is a very high platform. Usually we are so engrossed in our whatever we are dealing with, that we don't have this feeling of despair. But this feeling of despair, and as Miri Mataji was speaking about frustration, that can be seen as something like a preliminary to that. And if we can just go past that and not be too much bothered by this frustration. Krishna always acknowledges our efforts and our struggles and appreciates that, and that the scripture does enjoin that even if we are chanting, well, of course, we should make an attempt to chant nicely, but even if we are chanting somehow negligently, still it is considered glorious, and the purification is taking place. So the scripture does encourage us to just go at it and try to find the means to make it more concentrated.
Yeah, that's a good point. That how is your, like, maybe you have to ask yourself, why am I chanting? What is it that I want to achieve? Is it like a connection with God, or is it just that I need some peace or whatever? So the proper attitude should be that, I want to connect with you, God. I have been, so far away from you for so many lifetimes, and now I would like to connect. So, or if you just want to please Krishna, so then just by hearing the mantra like that, it depends. Yes. Yeah. So is that satisfying, Bhakti Miri? You can try to maybe walk. We have seen Prabhupada in some videos. He's walking around very slowly, very like meditatively, like that.
Yeah, it's really helpful. It's was a lot of points that also to just keep on trying, because like sometimes I think I stopped because I felt like, oh, I lost focus, so I already failed, so I might as well, like, it's kind of over in a way, like but yeah, to just keep on going, even if it's not possible to focus the whole time, and maybe use walking. I think my downstairs neighbor might not be very happy, but when I start walking around in circles in the morning, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, is it making too much noise there, the floor? Or
No, I think it should be okay.
should be
It's
okay.
quite
Yeah.
big ones.
Don't use your wooden shoes or something.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Anybody else has any questions on this? Okay. Okay, so we should then go back to these here. If you have any question, because when I'm reading, then I can't see if someone is have a question. So then just turn on the mic. So what I was thinking about this chapter here, it's chapter 6 is about astanga-yoga. So what does that have to do with bhakti yoga, which we are practicing? So that is, let me see here, explained in this let me see. The study guide, it's explained in the study guide. And I'm just going to scroll a little bit backwards here. Yeah, here in chapter 5, Krishna has explained how to achieve liberation through Naishkarmya. So Naishkarmya means that you work for Krishna, but you don't expect any to enjoy the result. You just serve Krishna, but you don't expect anything back. So that was explained in chapter 5, and at the end of the chapter, Krishna explained how to achieve that same liberation, but now through Astanga-yoga. So Krishna is just showing different paths here. So in chapter 6, Krishna will connect Naishkarmya with Ashtanga and will describe the process of Astanga-yoga in a greater detail. So this is what he's doing now. So I feel that chapter 6 is very valuable for also a devotee because there are different techniques there which we can actually use for, let's say, our japa, how to chant Hare Krishna, that we have to remember we have to control the mind. We have to remember that the mind can be our worst enemies or it can be our best friend. So the worst enemy is when the mind is materially absorbed, and the spiritual mind can be our best friend. Spiritual mind means when it's purified from material desires. So all these things we can actually use in our devotional service. If we extract the principle and then maybe skip certain details which have to do with astanga-yoga. Because astanga-yoga is a mechanical meditative practice, how to control the mind and the senses, and how to focus on the supersoul in the heart, Paramatma. And this practice, as you know already, it culminates in Samadhi, in full consciousness of the Supreme. So these are like preliminaries before we come to pure devotional service. So Ashtanga Yoga is just a preliminary thing, but then later on in this chapter, we will see in verses 33 to 36 that Arjuna, he says that I can't do this. This is too difficult, he's saying. It's impossible to control the mind. But then Krishna is saying, no, it's not impossible. And then he explained it's you have to practice, and at the same time detach yourself. And then you also need Krishna's mercy. So there we come with Oscar's comment that we cry for Krishna's mercy. And what is and then later on in this chapter we will also see what is the destination of an unsuccessful yogi. So that is Arjuna's 9th question in the Bhagavad-gita. He's actually asking what happens if we die and we have not reached perfection. What will happen to that yogi? And then Krishna will give different answers. And then at the end of this chapter, Krishna will explain that there are different types of transcendentalists. He will say that of all the transcendentalists, the yogi is the best, but of all the yogis, the devotee is the topmost. And that is his personal opinion. So that's just a little summary of chapter 6, because I think it's important now that we have been away the whole summer to remember what this chapter is about. It's about Ashtanga Yoga, but we can learn a lot from and be reminded how we can practice our own service to Krishna. And when we chant, because we have direct service to Krishna, and then there's indirect service to Krishna. So the direct service is when we chant Hare Krishna, when we study the scriptures, when we worship the deity of Krishna on the altar, and when we go to the holy Dham, and then we have Tulsi, we worship Tulsi also, and when we associate with devotees, or if we are doing some service to the spiritual master. So all of these are direct service, and then we have the indirect service, which is we have to go to our job, maintain our body somehow economically, and all of those things. That's the indirect. So we are dealing in two worlds. We are in the material world, we are in the spiritual world. So we have to deal with both as long as we have a material body and we have not reached perfection. So then we have to be conscious of that there is the indirect way, and then there is the direct way. And we get help from the Bhagavad-gita with chapter 6 to perform better the direct, our meditation. So we can go back to this verse 25, where Krishna is saying, gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, situated by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So he's speaking here, Krishna is very mercifully explaining to us that it's a gradual process, and it's step by step where we are advancing in spiritual life. And in order to enter into trance or the higher levels of consciousness, we have to cultivate knowledge, which we are doing here in the Bhagavad-gita course. And the full conviction, it means we have a strong faith, because let's say if you take the bus in the morning and you're not convinced that this bus will actually take you to your job, then you will get off that bus. So we have to be convinced that, yes, by chanting Hare Krishna, devotional service, bhakti yoga, I will actually reach the spiritual perfection, which is actually love of Godhead, Krishna Prema. And I will, at the same time, become free from the material contamination. So I don't need to take birth again, but that's just like, how do you say, side effect. The goal with Krishna consciousness is to reconnect, to reestablish the lost relationship with the Supreme Lord. So if we are convinced that, yes, by chanting Hare Krishna, I will reach this goal, so then we continue. But if we lose that conviction, then we don't continue. It's like the same as you take that bus and you think, oh, this is the wrong bus, and then you take another bus. So like that, and then the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So that's when we are chanting Hare Krishna, we just fix our mind. And also in our daily life, let's say you wake up in the morning, you take a shower. Why do you take a shower? Well, because Krishna is pleased if I'm clean. So try to connect everything that is because Krishna likes it, not because of the bacteria, or at the job people will think that I'm stinking or something. So then that's how you connect the indirect with the direct, connecting everything with Krishna. And that's how you in the indirect can be fixed on Krishna also. And when you go to your job, you do it for Krishna's pleasure. So then you will be more focused, you will get a better result, but you're doing it for his pleasure. And then everyone will actually be pleased. So that gradually, we can be like less self-centered and more Krishna conscious. So that is something important, because our constitutional position as a soul, as an eternal soul, is actually to be a servant of Krishna, but now it's reversed. So we think God is my servant, he should serve my desires, or we may think that I should serve this body, this material body, I should serve the mind, I should serve the intelligence. No, there is a lack of connection, there is a disconnection there with the rest of the existence. So that's why we have to make that connection. Yeah. So let's see, does anyone have any comment or questions until now? Kalyani Mataji, you have something to say?
I think Mataji, very good listening to the points actually. One thing what I observed is usually when we watch movies, right, we are really totally listening to it. Even if someone talks behind also, it won't come into our focus, because when we are watching a movie, we are totally focused. I wonder why the same focus will not be there when we are doing chanting or something.
Oh, that's a really nice question, actually. It's a matter of taste. We in the material world, we are so used to gratify the senses. We are used to the material, so-called happiness, and that's why it's so absorbing. But also with the help of art, the help of music, all of those things are actually Krishna's qualities, but the soul indirectly is feeling some kind of attraction, but it's actually not the movie. It is actually Krishna, but we just, since we are, in this material dream, we don't realize that it is actually Krishna. But if we would realize, this beautiful nature is, it is actually Krishna's beauty being represented here in this quality. So then we can actually feel ecstasy when we remember Krishna in that way.
Yeah,
So
so I feel when we are making a garland to Krishna or decorating or cooking something, so that time, okay, we are focused again. But
yes,
if you just ask me to sit and do the chanting,
yeah,
that time mind goes a lots of ways. Maybe
yes.
it's gradually we have to attain that stage. Even by sitting also we focus.
Yes, 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 that's true. It is actually easier also to chant with other devotees. Then it is a different experience. I don't know if you can turn on, Prabhupada's chanting or something, or some kirtan, some bhajan just in the background. So then one can also get that experience. But I think it is important to get a taste for the holy name. And one can also pray for a taste for the holy name. Because it is actually important to get it. We just need to understand Krishna is there. He's not different from the holy name. So you say Krishna is there, but we don't realize it right now. But one day we will realize it, and then it will be very, very ecstatic, and there will be, love in the heart and so on. So one should just continue with that. But I also would like to say regarding movies that we can see everything from Bhagavad-gita's perspective. So that's the funny thing with movies, that we can analyze it in that way, and then you kind of connect that, you can say, material sense gratification, you connect it with, of course, I don't know if you're watching Mahabharata or what it is, but if it's just a mundane movie, then you can just connect it with Bhagavad Gita and just analyze it from Bhagavad Gita's perspective, and in discussions with others, and then it can become actually quite interesting. So that's all again, the indirect. How do I connect the indirect with Krishna? So that is an important thing.
Could
Yes.
I
Yes,
add
Miri.
something to that point? Feel like with movies or other things, like kinds of storytelling, arts, and like this whole category, I sometimes feel like anything creative or inspirational, I can also see like Krishna in there, similar to when being in nature and like the sun is shining through the leaves and all these moments, there's something divine about it. And it's just like what you said, I feel like I've experienced more often that when I watch something, for example, that's completely unrelated to Krishna consciousness or religion or spirituality at all, but I sometimes feel like if it's like really like really a form of art or well done, or like there's this creativity in it, that this is sort of like a divine spark. Or like when I often work creatively myself, and then like sometimes when you get into this state of flow and it feels like your hands are working on their own and it's not really you and it's coming from somewhere else, that it's basically God is everywhere in a way, and then
Yes.
you see it, encounter, and then like very different and sometimes very what feels like random ways and situations. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. Prabhupada was explaining Rishikesha, Krishna is the master of the senses. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here in the verse 26, he's saying, a Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha, or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. So Rishikesh is the master of the senses, which, sometimes when you're serving Krishna, or like you said, you are doing some work and you feel some divine inspiration, then Krishna can actually take over the senses, and then he's just doing the whole work. But actually, he's always doing the whole work. It's just that sometimes we understand that he's doing it, because most of the time we think we are the doer, but he's actually acting. But he can act like more directly through devotees, especially through the spiritual master, where the guru can say something when the disciple is just listening to a lecture and he's thinking about a question, and then the guru is saying the answer. So then, like that, the guru can be like very in tune with Krishna, because he's so pure, he's so advanced. Like Prabhupada, he was saying, Krishna is dictating and I'm writing the purports. So like that, the purity of the spiritual master can be on that very high level. So that is Rishikesh. He's like, because Prabhupada also said we are Krishna's senses. So he's just moving and then we move with him. So when we are that is also a definition of Samadhi. We are one with Krishna's desire. Not that we have become one and we lost our identity, but we are so, how do you say, like lovers. They are so in tune with each other that they can end the sentences of each other, or, you don't need to tell each other, I want this. They just somehow intuitively know, and they give each other what they need. So that's like the perverted reflection of how the devotee is can be very much connected with Krishna. But also Krishna, remember, there is the absolute truth. You have the Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So the Brahman experience in material world is more prominent, especially if we go out in the nature. Then we can see, all this, the beauty that is Krishna's quality. So Krishna's quality shines through, and we feel this inspiration and this amazement that God is fantastic, how he has done, everything in this material world. Or we see the stars in the night and we can understand, wow, this world is so big and I'm so tiny. Or, all these experiences, we have to just connect it and thank Krishna for what he has given to us. And like that. So that's a life of gratitude. That's a life of Krishna consciousness at every step. But exactly this Brahman experience, you were speaking about the spark, as a spark of his splendor. Krishna is explaining later on in the Bhagavad-gita, different sparks of his splendor, like he's the strength of the strong, the intelligence of the intelligent, like that. So we can experience different types of Krishna's how do you say, qualities, because he's non-different from his qualities. So when we come in contact with his qualities, then we should take that further step, that it's not something materially amazing. No, it's amazing because it's Krishna's quality. So then it immediately, at that moment, it is actually Krishna consciousness at that moment. So the more moments we get like that, so then the more we will be aware that he's actually everywhere. He's in the heart, he's in between every atom. He's here as Brahman, and then in the holy name, he's there as Bhagavan, or in the scripture, in the deity form, he's there actually as Bhagavan. So we are always with him. It's just the only problem is that we don't realize it. So that is like the dusting off. Dusting off means chanting Hare Krishna, to dust off, and then the awakening will come. So in the beginning, chanting Hare Krishna is like jaundice. It can be without a taste. It can be a struggle. But I can tell you, I've been chanting 33 years Hare Krishna mantra, and the more you chant, the more taste you will get. And especially if you can serve the spiritual master, then you will get a lot of taste for the holy name, or going on pilgrimage to Vrindavan or Mayapur, those places, you will get a lot of realization. So all those things together one can do. I mean, whatever one is able to do. So Krishna will always be there trying to help us. If we have a desire, he will help us. So the stronger our desire is, then he will also come closer to us. Yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm talking so much. I don't know if Ashwini would like to say something. Oscar, yes, please.
Well, as there were some talks related to movies, one devotee, a senior devotee, explained. I found it quite nice that in movies we get really well, as we were talking about absorption, and we get absorbed in movies, and we relate to the protagonist. And when the main character of the movie is in distress, then we might be chewing our nails, what's going to happen, and when things are happy, then we relate to that happiness. So this senior devotee was explaining that Krishna Katha, Krishna Lila is there exactly for that reason. We
Yeah.
should be absorbed in this Krishna Katha. And we have, Srila Prabhupada has given us the Krishna book. We have the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so much literature. So there's plenty of opportunity to become absorbed like that. And if I can still mention this one thing to do with this King Kulasekar, who was hearing Ram Katha, and then there was the description of how now Sita Devi has been kidnapped and kidnapped by Ravana and taken to this island of Lanka, and the king was so absorbed that he immediately ordered that, okay, we will attack the island also. So he was so fully absorbed in this mood. Of course, that is a very extreme example, and we should not pretend to be in a position where we are not. But still, the point remains that Krishna Katha is there for
Yes.
the very purpose of becoming absorbed.
Yes, definitely. I mean, with my husband, usually we read the Krishna book in the evening, and that is very, very wonderful to be absorbed. It also helps a lot for getting taste for the chanting, actually. To just every evening read. One can read like 5-10 minutes with a family. It doesn't need to be so much, but even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, the next day one feels so much more Krishna conscious. So thank you for bringing up that point. I was just pointing out about movies. It's like that. It's unavoidable to be in the world of the indirect. So somehow one has, if one is anyway, have to do certain things, whatever it is, work or relaxing in front of movie or whatever it is. So one should kind of connect that with Krishna. But of course, that to bring it to the Krishna Katha, that's absolutely the best. If one is on that level, one can always read Krishna Katha. But some people are not yet on that level that they have so much taste. So at least the indirect can be connected. Yes, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a very wonderful, amazing book. Yeah, it's non-different from Krishna. So actually the Srimad Bhagavatam is like, they say Bhagavad-gita, you have the philosophy, but the Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining how to apply it. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita is explaining how one can have relationships between devotees, spiritual relationships. So, yeah, but hopefully we can come to that Srimad Bhagavatam later. We can start reading that as well. Yeah. I have the Krishna book in my phone, actually. So that's, one can just download it. BBT is selling it. I have an iPhone, so I also Bhagavad-gita. I bought it through, let's see here. There is a book. Yeah, it's just called Books on the iPhone, and then one go there, and then you can write Krishna book, and you can write Bhagavad-gita, and then you can just purchase it. I think they have Srimad Bhagavatam also on Chaitanya Charitamrita. So nowadays one can have them in the phone, and then if you just lay down in the evening and before going to sleep, one can just read a little bit of the Krishna book. Thank you, Oskari. That was a nice input. Okay, I think we have reached our limit now, 1 hour. And thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and hope to see you then next Monday. I hope this day is, Mondays is working for you. Hare Krishna, and have a wonderful
Thanks for this day.
Krishna conscious.
Mataji.
Thank you very much.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. All glories to Prabhupada and Srimad Bhagavad-gita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.